In what way can you talk about something causing it? Must not it also exist? If it causes something, must not it exist? Must not the cause exist? Well, then look here, if there is something that can cause that's existence, it itself better not exist or you have an infinite regress. Well then, there must be some mystery then of how there can be a cause for this and yet not be a kind of cause. Well, it must be a kind of cause, but, well, okay, let's change the word cause. Whatever is the condition for that, maybe we can sneak around that word. But must that not exist? No. This is source of existence, source of everything in the visible world, as the sun stands to the sunlight. And that's from the good, from the idea of the good, or this what we call beauty itself. But this has a beginning, middle, and end. It has a beginning, right? Has an end, must have a middle point. Well, anything that has a beginning, middle, and end is a thing that exists, state of mind that exists. So even if you can extend this, right, for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 years, whatever it is, doesn't make any difference. You can still say it had both points that terminate it, beginning. Therefore you can talk about it as something. Must have a cause or the condition for being. And that must be higher. Well, the kind of reasoning that we are going to have to develop in order to deal with that issue is called, in Plato, the dialectic. And it's by the use of a certain kind of art of reasoning called the dialectic that can then finally bring you to see that in fact there is something higher that is the cause of that, and that's going to be called the good itself. And since it's higher, and the very nature of the higher is still in a relationship with the highest possible vision, then we have to explain how the good can be related to this. In what way? Well, you know, it's pretty interesting that when we have a royal pair, that certainly is the ruler of everything. But then we have to explain, what is this relationship? What is the nature of this kind of relationship? What does that mean for those two to be oh, you know what? Could that be another expression of what we were talking about before? In our model, remember our model? There's going to be a problem here of talking about the nature of the good itself, which goes beyond the idea of the good, which again we're calling the queen. That has a relationship to the royal pair. Have to talk about that as having a source. Have to talk, figure in some way, in some language, what that combination is going to be, do, and how it means, whatever it means. Well, what I like about it is that the idea of the dialectic moving from the idea of the good to the good is the subject of our talk on the 27th of October. And that's what I decided to do. Give you the problem, and that's what we'll explore on the 27th. And these are the two highest possible images, if you're interested in archetypes and the function of archetypes. Right? The most creative, the way it relates. So, what would you like to ask about this strange talk?
The king, the highest.
The king, the highest.
So if when you look at the phrase ousia, being, pure being, is that ballpark for this king?
Got to go above that.
Higher than ousia, being, pure being?
See,
Is
this
being-
turning upon itself, which we pictured before,
Yeah.
right? That's still something turning upon itself at the very nature of being. So it's above that.
So are we saying that the nature of being is something that is very staid,
No. Dynamic.
but we're saying that there's something higher than the nature of being?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the nature of being isn't staid, but there is something higher than that
Yes.
non-staid,
Right.
that dynamic nature of being.
Mhm.
It's higher, and it's higher than ousia?
Yes.
Being pure being.
Yes.
Because ousia being pure being is really still part of the queen.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, you see.
Because isn't that a metanoia experience?
Yes.
And that's where some people would want to get stuck and stay as long as they're on this planet.
Yes.
They go finding people who will help them be metanoic.
See, the good itself can't be an experience that has a beginning, middle, and end.
What is the cause of the good?
It's got to be just without.
Is that's higher than being?
Mm-hmm.
But isn't being eternal? Or is it-
Yes.
Then how's that higher than being? Because being is the same thing.
Right. That's right. But wait a minute, maybe we're forced to ask, what is the source of being? That's what we're doing, being itself.
Well, I can say, what is the source of the good?
The idea of the good, yeah. If whatever is, whatever you can describe is something, therefore, that exists. And you should be able to ask about anything that exists, what's the cause? Source.
So does the good not exist?
Must be beyond those very ideas.
It's unintelligible.
Oh, above. Supra-intelligible.
Super intelligible, and it can be experienced.
See, the word experience means this, beginning, middle, and end.
Right. So then it can,
It's not an object of knowledge.
it can be encountered.
Now you're getting into the better language, yes. Or recognized. See, the interesting thing about it, it has to be absolutely obvious.
What does?
It has to be absolutely obvious.
What?
Whatever the good is, the good in itself has to be absolutely obvious.
And I'm supposed to wait a week to find out what this is?